Hello, I'm Kori Nicole with Where's the Buzz TV. How are you, Alexis?
Yeah, I'm good. You're beautiful.
Oh, you are too. Thank you so
Like, so
much.
pretty.
Thank you. No, I absolutely love the film. I thought you all were excellent. And of course, just really bringing in that type of bestie role. Like, of course, like starting off, right? Because it's just like, I feel like going through a best friend and having a best friend and just going through different stuff with them. I feel like you really resonate with that, of course, in the beginning of the film, because it's like, oh my God, this is crazy stuff. Like, will anyone believe us that this is happening, right?
Yeah. See you.
This is real. Like, am I going crazy?
Yeah.
So how was just, of course, just really shooting and being on set and then having to play around with the visual effects and, different green screens. Like, how was that process as an actor?
Oh my gosh. It was very interesting because we didn't know what the film would look like. The majority of the scenes we kind of had to imagine certain things. So that was like crazy and exciting. And I can only imagine how like the cast of Avatar would have felt because that's like all green screen. So that was pretty cool. And then yeah, it really the movie, yes, it's a thriller, yes, it's scary. But that essence of friendship is so deeply intertwined. And Jen, my character, she's really the levity of the film. So, and I loved being that because I'm not a big scary movie fan, but I was like, I'll come on as like the best friend who's like going to hold the space for everyone and like
Exactly.
it's all good. Yeah.
No, that's so true. Oh my goodness. So even of course getting out your comfort zone, I guess a little bit, how was that really like feeling some type of like psychological thriller? Because I'm the same way. I'm not really usually too big on thrillers, but when stuff makes me like think and I'm like, oh wow, like Black Mirror. Like how was that?
Yeah, it's closer to a Black Mirror than like a typical horror film. So that's also why I was like, no, this has, a deeper meaning. It's a really cool relationship. So it's not just this movie's not going to scare you just to scare you. Those types of movies, I'm like, life is scary enough. Like I'm good. So
Are
that
there
was
any films that you watched to prepare for this role or no?
no, not really, just because, my little brother, he's a gamer. So I kind of am accustomed to that world
Mhm.
and the vibes and the way they speak to each other, more so yell, cuss at each other. So I was really accustomed to it. And also just with everything going on with social media and,
Mhm.
the singularity coming. Wah. So it's like one of those things where I just kind of just put all the real lifeness into it to create that. And then
Exactly.
and then just being a really good friend, like really focusing on that friendship. Um, Jen loves Hannah so much, and she also understands her pain and sees that, what she has is a disease and agoraphobia is a real thing. We just don't see them because they never leave the house. But there's
They
actually
never leave the house.
like I
Exactly.
Googled it. There's like over like 2 million people that have agoraphobia.
Yes.
It's insane. So just like really feeling into that from a compassion standpoint.
No, like for sure. And even I know that when fans are going to be watching this, they're going to be thinking about all of the new AI developments and how that's just so on brand. Like this movie's
I
perfect
know.
timing for
Talk
for
about
what's going
relevant.
on. It's so
I know.
relevant, so prominent. So even like the concept of AI, right? Like, how do you feel about the future of AI? Like, do you feel like it could potentially get sinister, or do you feel like in the right hands, we should be fine?
I think it already has, but the thing with the world is like we live in duality, we live in a paradox. And so, like, with any darkness, there has to be an equal amount of light. So, I almost feel like sometimes we're going to see some really dark times, but we're also going to see these amazing, lighter times. So, I just always go back to the fact that technology is not good or bad. It's just whatever we make it to be. It's a neutral thing. It doesn't, the only intentions it has is ourselves. So we need to ask ourselves like how we are stepping forward into this. And then also talking about this idea of convenience, like make sure that whatever technology you're using as we begin to go further into that, make sure it's coming from a place of like, I value this as opposed to this is just convenient for me.
No, I definitely agree. And I love that the themes that are touched on, just, even with like forgiveness and like learning yourself and like letting stuff go, and just how that was all essentially compiled in this really cool, like gamer virtual reality world. Because I'm not even a gamer,
I
but
was
I
like
watch my
scared.
brother.
Like,
Right. Like, you're
I
like,
was like,
it
there's so
actually
much
works.
going on in here.
It
Uh,
actually works. And even going to your character, of course, how like ride or die, right? Like, do you feel that if this was like a real situation, would you have gone through all of that for your best friend? Do you feel like it's the
I mean,
opportunity?
Yeah, I roll my eyes, but yes, I would go through it with that bitch. I'd be like, I'm here
Literally.
for
It's like you were
you.
the only one. I would have
I don't
quit.
know, like she's going crazy, but like I'm here. Let me take out your trash. Like I think we've all been through that in some way. Like I think being having a friendship, like girlfriends, it's kind of just
Mhm.
like each take turns having a meltdown. So like there is just that where I was like, this is just a
Exactly.
simplified version of my real life friendships.
No, that is so true. And that's why I'm like, to really be a true friend, I do think that's like just a main like theme and concept because a lot of people, it's like, what can you do for me? Like it's a very take type of scenario, not give. So even when you're displaying, your character, is there anything that you want fans to grab from in particular?
Um, I I think the softness that she brings to Hannah, because like easily, I think a lot of people would get frustrated with Hannah because they wouldn't understand the disease or the illness. Agoraphobia is a real thing. So I think the softness of Hannah, Jen's approach to Hannah and how she doesn't push, she doesn't try and pull her out of her house. She just simply says, if you're ever ready to walk out, like I will be there with you every step of the way. And I think that's such a beautiful way to be there for someone because, whenever it's not our issues, we know exactly how to handle it. And so, um, even with my friend, the times when I've needed to have some sense talked into me, she never preached to me. She always just had me ask more and more honest questions until I came to the conclusion myself. So I think that is huge because they don't want to feel more broken than they already are. They don't want to feel more sad than they already are. And they don't want you to feel like they're being judged. And so just that softness and understanding is huge.
No, I'm a really big compassionate person too. That's why I'm like any type of like black and white situation, it rarely is. It's always some type of gray. And I feel like a lot of people like lack that. And even when you were going through, of course, like the script, do you feel like that really just stood out to you? Of course, like with the really cool sci-fi, but also just like, oh, like this is just like a really unique take just on life and about AI and just virtual reality. Like what really stood out to you when you were like, oh, I need to be a part of this production?
Well, what stood out to me was obviously Sasha being a part of it. I think she's an incredible actress. I'm a huge fan of hers. Um, the realness and sarcasm that Jen brings to the table. It was the first time where I was like, I can just bring my little self in here and it'll be all right. And that was really cool because I think, me and Sasha were talking about this earlier. It's like you do in acting specifically, you get type in real life as well, but we get typecast in certain archetypes. You grow up and people say, this is what we value in you. You're pretty. That's what we value. And then
Exactly.
you go your life being like, okay, that's what I bring to the table. So I'm just going to work on that. And so it was really so much fun for me and Sasha to just be some cool gamer girls. Like I didn't think about what I looked like. I didn't care. Like it wasn't on Jen's mind. So it wasn't on mine. And there was like a really nice release in that.
Girlhood, literally. I
I know.
love it.
It's
Yes.
like we can be all different things all the time.
I
We love
know. No, I love it. Your personality is so vibrant. And that's why I know that fans are gonna love this. Like, lovely person, the both of you, honestly. So I can only imagine how fun it was to shoot together. And I just can't wait to see what more you all like, have in your career in the future and just how fans are gonna positively react to this. But thank you so much again for sitting down with me. I'm Kori Nicole with Where's the Best TV. And I'm here with Alexis.
Thank you. I love your energy.
Hello, I'm
Hi,
Nicole with Where's the Best TV, and I'm here with Sasha. How are you?
I'm great. So good to meet you.
It's so good to meet you as well. And of course, I just love always meeting actors like when they're on the screen and then off the screen because it's like so much intensity, right, happening. And then just in the interview, you're just like, hey, completely different. Just start by telling me how was preparing for this role? Like, what was it like, of course, with all the cool concepts and everything?
So, I mean, you start with, oh my God, just reading the script over and over and over and over and over again. And I remember watching an interview by Anthony Hopkins and one of his interviews, and he said that you need to read the script at least 200 times. And I was like, okay. So you start by reading it 200 times, and then because Sir Anthony Hopkins said so, and then I was like, okay, the key aspect of Hannah's personality, agoraphobia. She's a gamer. She had trauma. She lives in a really like claustrophobic world. I called one of my dad's friend. My dad is a doctor, and his friend is a psychiatrist. And she kind of walked me through what agoraphobia really is, how, because she has patients, she treats them, and quite successfully actually. And I could not even fathom how deep and traumatic this is. You know,
Same.
it's a scary thing, and people can have like a proper panic attack, which is one of the worst experiences you can have. And Hannah's is really bad. Like she really cannot leave apartment. She even opening the door for her is a whole different thing. And I really appreciate, you know, being able to have this conversation with someone who really understands, not just Googling things. And the second thing was gaming, which was also a whole new world for me. And I was like, okay. And James, our director, sent me a huge list of videos and documentaries and YouTubers that I needed to watch. And there is this thing called Twitch, I think, where people game
Yes.
online. Like, oh my God, it's like thing, and people are so invested and they love it. And I was like, okay, like for Hannah, it's like how much I love films, that's how much Hannah loved games. And I was like, okay, how do I find this connection? But huge respect to gamers. It's really it's hard work.
No, seriously, it's so much hard work. And I love that you're just putting on, of course, for all the women who are amazing gamers just in real life, because I'm sure they're going to be able to connect. Because gaming is very,
Oh,
very hard. So did you actually have to like learn like any like gaming like systems, or like how was that process? Did you even have to do that, or no, not really?
I mean, I tried, you know, like I tried to understand how like my fingers should move, because I remember like I
Mhm.
only played for like 2 weeks in my life. I had like an episode, and I remember how much my fingers were hurting, and you know, like it's a bit different. And I remember like thinking about it now, there was the movie The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was playing games like on his Game Boy. And I remember there was like a moment when someone tells him like, I can see like your fingers work differently because you're a gamer. And I was like, ah, okay, it's something that I should remember. And actually, it's interesting that you mentioned talking about women in games, because I watched a lot of videos of girls and
Mhm.
women, and it's not easy, like especially since it's a very boy friendly industry,
Exactly.
but we're getting there,
Yeah.
and we're kicking ass. So, and well, Hannah definitely kicks ass in this film in Latency, even though she's giving a little bit of advantage because of Omnia, because of the piece she's getting um, to test. And it was really interesting, because that's what I love about my job so much, because you can just kind of tap into things that are exciting and interesting that we probably don't really do in your personal life. So that was fun.
No, for sure. And even like, touching more on just some of the things that you had to, of course, like train and like do your extra research with. Like, was there anything personally that you felt you connected with the character, like personality wise, or even maybe some experiences, anything that you were like, oh, like I'm losing myself in this character, but like I'm also sharing this connection on a different level. Is there anything that you pulled from yourself for the script or no?
I am personally quite anxious. I don't have phobia like Hannah, but I am quite anxious. So for me, certain things like this, I could relate to. But you know, it's always like I'm anxious about my things, but for Hannah, it's the opening of the door, someone calling her, you know, like so you can just mix your personal experience and your personal feelings with what they are going through. And I always thought I'm an extrovert, but I discovered I'm actually an introvert, which was quite interesting
Oh
to
my God,
realize.
same. I have
I'm
been too.
extroverted.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm pushed to be extrovert, and I'm like, no, I want to stay home. And that was something that I could truly connect with. Obviously, not on the same level as well,
Mhm.
Hannah experienced it, but I do such a thing. It's called dream work, and I have an amazing acting coach, and she kind of walks me through the character, and then we do a dream assignment, and you let your subconscious work. And it's a real thing. It's beautiful when you do it as an actor, but you have the part of this character uh, it starts building inside of you, and you can feel how it even like it reflects on your personal life, your personal emotions, not even when you're sad. So I did feel that Hannah was living inside of me for a big portion of filming, and her experience became my experience. It's like a weird. Being an actor is such a weird thing.
It's so beautiful though. Like even hearing you describe that, like yes, like I know so many people, so many fans are going to be like, whoa, because like even seeing your performance was amazing. Like you really did. It was like, wow, like she's this character. So I feel
I
like
think
that's a beautiful thing, of course, for an actor. Like you want to have that experience where like I really felt like I was one with the character because you're supposed to be. That's why I thought that this was like such an empowering film. And of course, even touching on like questions of humanity and like forgiveness and like redemption. So how do you even felt about those type of themes that are playing around in the film?
so. I always think, like I do feel that films can change your life, they can save your life, that you feel like you've been given a voice, that you're not alone, that someone else is going through this. And even though this movie is disguised into kind of like sci-fi thriller, it's actually a movie about trauma. And not just people who developed agoraphobia, it's also people that just had a traumatic experience, especially when they were young. And it's a metaphor to what trauma is. And I think it's interesting when the movie talks about something that is, well, as I feel, is important and is meaningful. And then it's fun to watch, of course, and it has like this fun aspect of it. It's really so. Me and James, we talked a lot about it, and he was like, "That's what Hannah is feeling like. Everything that Omnia is doing is Hannah's kind of inner world." And we kind of like, after watching it, and of course, again, it's fun, it's a movie, you have to, it has to be entertaining, but it also, well, made my friends who watched it with me when we watched it for the first time, I was they were like, wow, we never thought about it, we never thought of how hard it is to be like trapped in your own trauma.
No, seriously, it's a very like just very delicate, very intriguing thing to be able to see that play out and that people really, of course, experience different scenarios like this. So even just I know I'm sure like even realizing like, oh, so many people have actually been through these different type of phobias. Did you feel like a different type of empathy and understanding like for them after really playing the role?
Absolutely. And that's why, like I've heard of the word agoraphobia before. Um, my parents are, they're both doctors. And you just don't think about it truly, because there's so many things happening in the world every day. But when you really like focus on something and you start talking with people that experienced it, people that deal with it, you have a whole different understanding and compassion towards this. And like I have a friend that has it's funny, but she's like, I mean, because I love cats, so for me, I can't relate, but she has phobia when she sees cats. And you can see how terrified and scared it is. And so many people, when they hear it, they like start laughing. As I said, it's funny, they're cats, they're so cute. But what she goes through is horrible. And she's panicking and she started crying once. And it was in Turkey and Istanbul, where there are many, many cats. There's so many cats there that she couldn't leave her hotel, and it's scary, and it's really what she's experiencing is horrible. So after watching this, after filming this, I called her and I was like, I understand like how horrible, not, but I can imagine how horrible it is what you feel, and I feel you, and I see you. And she was like, thank you so much, because these people deal not only with actual trauma of it, but with the shame of it. Because people are like, oh, you're just open the door and get out. Like, no,
Exactly, it's not that simple. Like it's just
it's
not that
not.
easy to say. No, oh
So
my God.
yes,
Wow, you were just such a genuine soul, genuine person. And I just really, of course, just like love this interview. I'm very excited for, fans to see this and the responses that you'll get. I'm sure they're going to be great. And I just wish you all the luck, of course, in your career. And thank you so much again for sitting down with me. I'm Kori Nicole with Where's the Buzz TV, here with Sasha.
thank you, Kori. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Kori
Oh,
Nicole with Where's the Buzz TV. How are you, James?
very good. Thank you.
I'm very excited to speak with you. For one, I think that this film is just so surreal and just so interesting, just the overall concept. And of course, just doing my own individual research, I was starting to see like some similarities that people were like, "Ooh, this is reminding me of Black Mirror and just type of like AI and how that's taking over now." Like everyone is talking about AI. So this is like the perfect time for this actually to have this, release in theaters. So how do you kind of feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it's a sort of a coincidence. I spend a lot of my time reading rather nerdy science magazines and stuff, and so I sort of felt that this was coming anyway. I wrote the script just before the pandemic kicked in, so quite a lot of time before this recent sort of kickoff of AI. So for me, I was sort of aware of the technology and how fast it was developing. And that of course played into writing the script and thinking about, some of the ways things might transpire. Hopefully it's not as terrifying as in the film.
Hopefully not,
But
but I don't know. No, I
but
agree. Because I feel like I don't know. I feel like the film. I was like, wow, this could be the next 20 years. It could be it could be in the future. Like this could really happen. So that's why I was like, do you feel that just how we're seeing the industry move towards AI and like the advances that they have taken, how much it's just pretty much grown since then? How do you just feel about the future of technology in general, about the gaming industry? Do you feel like they'll start implementing actual more AI within that? Like, how do you like, what are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, at the moment, it seems like the AI sort of phenomenon is unstoppable. And I've even just within the industry, I hear a lot of people sort of embracing it. I mean, in a way, I've gone the opposite direction with latency, in that the voice of the AI program is a human. So actor Chloe Shank, who so in that way, she's taken a job from an AI. So we've reversed roles there. But I think you know, I'm not anti-technology. I don't even see latency as anti-AI or anti-tech. For me, it sort of stemmed from a question that I sort of posed myself throughout the writing process, which was, if we have this technology, a technology that's a brain-computer interface and it can read your mind, what happens? What happens in the case where that reads the mind of someone who is already damaged? So what does it release, within someone? Because if you've suppressed something, but then you have a computer that can read your mind, it might be a little less selective about what it brings forward. And that's sort of the stem of the AI, the idea in this film. So in some ways, it's the AI is a character in the film, but it's not. And I wanted to sort of play with that trope of people fearing technology or fearing AI as a villain, and so I play it into that to make people think that that's where it's headed. But really, ultimately, it's like most real life horror. It stems from something inside a human. And so it doesn't really, AI isn't the cause of this
No, I thought
terrifying
that's no,
thing.
that's literally like exactly what I was getting from it. And I'm sure that like fans are gonna definitely be so excited to even tweet and comment all of their interactions and be like, oh my God, this is what I think. Like this is the future. So I definitely feel like that's so cool. And even with the writing and the directing, of course, like the visual effects were amazing. So like as like a writer and someone that this is your craft, like how did that feel really bringing the writing to life, and especially with all like the visual effects and like just the enhancements that it overall had? How was that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a production design background. So before I started writing, I was, working in art departments and designing and building sets and costumes and things. And even before that, I worked in theater. So I've sort of always been very aware of the sort of visual storytelling. And so when I'm writing, like a lot of the time, I'm thinking about how can I show it rather than have it in dialogue. And so that's why in the script, I mean, in the film, there is sort of large chunks of time where there is no dialogue. Plus, for me, it's realistic. I mean, if you're alone at home, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't talk to myself, and so it makes sense that she doesn't say anything, or now and then mutters. At least that's what I do, mutter to myself in frustration or whatever is going on. So, but as far as the visual storytelling, that's for me. film is a visual medium. That's what we do. So I embrace it. I'm very excited to use VFX when I can. Special effects, whatever it takes to tell the story in the best possible way with the budget that you have and the time that you have. So for me, given the opportunity to do the VFX, I just jumped at it.
No, I thought it definitely came together like so beautifully. And I thought that like it really brought together like just the overall theme that you were touching on. And I definitely that brings me to my question about, of course, people feeling damaged, like everyone has like their thing or their issue that they may be struggling with. But do you feel that no matter how deeply someone may feel like, oh, like I have this wrong with me, or I'm stuck or I'm kind of lost, that there's always a chance for redemption? Do you feel like that is like a grace that people should give themselves? Or like what do you think about like that concept?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a chance for redemption. I mean, some people are just terrible human beings, so
Exactly.
maybe not. Uh, but I think, in a way, what I think we should do as writers and storytellers is sort of pose a question to the audience rather than try to give them the answer. So, uh, so that would definitely be sort of one of the what you're touching on is actually something that I really like to explore in everything that I write. So for me, what's interesting about the world and about humans is that gray area where there isn't good or evil. It's, that sort of gray area in between where I think most of us exist. No one is pure, no one is perfect. Just like I don't think, I mean, maybe there's probably some evil people, but I think ultimately, there's with a character, you want to have that, possibility of it going any one direction. And, even with latency, um, I, a lot of horror films and sci-fi films sort of this is sort of a genre mashup, but the they tend to there'll be something, an external force that's good or evil, like a demon, or, possesses someone, or, there's an object that is cursed. Um, uh, I, I didn't really want to go down that path. I wanted to sort of hit that sort of obscure middle ground in the gray area and sort of explore that because that's what I find interesting.
No, I definitely agree about that gray area. And that's was one of my favorite things because, of course, sometimes you can always kind of anticipate the ending of usually like a plot sometimes, but I felt like this
Yeah.
one definitely kept on the toes. So I agree. And then I'm very excited for fans, of course, to see it. And then, of course, thank you so much for just sitting down with me and having the time. And I'm just so excited just to see the feedback from fans from it.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me again. And I'm Kori Nicole with Where's the Buzz TV.